The sound was impossible. A laugh. It echoed from the center of the stage, a place where no one was standing. The air in the Pratt Opera House grew heavy, thick with a silence that felt louder than any noise. My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat against the stillness. We had just arrived, the sun still hanging in the late afternoon sky, but the darkness inside this place was already alive. It was the kind of darkness that watches you, that knows your name before you even speak it. I stood frozen in the main aisle, my eyes locked on the empty wooden stage, the dust motes dancing in the single beam of light from a high window. The laugh wasn't loud, but it cut through the air, a whisper of amusement from a world unseen. This is why we do what we do. We seek out these moments, these cracks in the fabric of reality where the past bleeds into the present. I run a small paranormal investigation channel driven by a need to understand what happens after we die. My name is Alex, and I've traveled to Albion, New York, a small town with a very big secret. The secret lives within these walls, in the historic Pratt Opera House. It's a place of incredible history, a place of art and community, but also a place of tragedy and deep lingering sorrow. That single, ghostly laugh was a welcome. It was a challenge. It was the spirits of this location letting us know that we were not alone, and it was just the beginning. The energy here is palpable, a static charge that makes the hair on your arms stand on end. Every shadow seems to move, every creak of the old floorboard sounds like a footstep. You can feel the weight of over 100 years pressing down on you. This isn't just an old building, it's a container, a vessel holding the emotions, the memories, and the very souls of those who refuse to leave. The laughter faded as quickly as it came, leaving behind a chilling question. Who was on that stage? Who was watching us from the darkness? We came here for answers, to capture proof of the paranormal, and the spirits were already making their presence known. My mission is to give a voice to the voiceless, to tell the stories that are trapped within stone and wood. The Pratt Opera House has stories to tell, and they are not all happy ones. Fires, neglect, and years of silence have turned this beautiful theater into a hotbed of paranormal activity. As I stood there listening to the silence that followed the laugh, I knew this investigation would be different. This place was active, it was intelligent, and it was waiting for us. The sun was setting, and soon we would be locked inside with whatever spirits call this opera house home. We were ready for the lockdown, we were ready for the truth. The Pratt Opera House is a monument of brick and stone standing proudly on the main street of Albion. But its beauty hides a history scarred by fire and loss. Built in 1882 by a man named John Pratt, it was the heart of this community. It was a place for music, for theater, for joy. People gathered here to forget their troubles and be transported to another world. But tragedy struck not once but twice. Devastating fires swept through the building, leaving behind nothing but ashes and memories. Each time it was rebuilt, a testament to the town's resilience. Yet, with each fire, something else seemed to get left behind, trapped in the structure itself. After its golden years, the Opera House fell silent. For decades, it was abandoned, a hollow shell filled with dust and decay. The laughter and applause were replaced by the sound of wind whistling through broken windows. The vibrant stage became a forgotten platform, the velvet seats collecting layers of grime. It is in these years of silence that many believe the spirits grew stronger. With no one to watch them, they roamed the empty halls freely. The building became a local legend, a place kids would dare each other to enter, a place whispered about in ghost stories told around campfires. The energy of abandonment and loneliness soaked into the very walls. Today, the Opera House is being brought back to life. A dedicated group of volunteers is working tirelessly to restore it to its former glory. But as they peel back the layers of paint and repair the broken floorboards, they are disturbing more than just dust. They are waking up the past. Staff and volunteers have reported incredible paranormal activity. They hear disembodied voices echoing in the empty auditorium. They see dark figures moving in the balconies when they know they are alone. Tools go missing only to reappear in strange places. The feeling of being watched is constant, a heavy presence that follows them from room to room. This is what drew me here. The stories are too numerous, too consistent to ignore. The history of this location is the perfect recipe for a haunting. The intense emotions of performances, the trauma of the fires, the deep loneliness of its abandonment, all of these things create an energy that can anchor spirits to a location. The building itself feels like a giant battery, charged with the emotional residue of over a century. Before we could even begin our investigation, we had to understand the souls who were said to linger here. We needed to know their names and their stories. We needed to meet the caretaker, the man who knew these halls, and these ghosts, better than anyone. Mr. Delgado met us in the lobby, his kind eyes holding the wisdom of someone who has spent countless hours within these haunted walls. He's the building's caretaker, but he's more than that. He's its guardian. He spoke in a quiet, respectful tone, not just about the building's history but about its residents, the ones who never left. "You have to understand," he said, his voice echoing slightly in the grand space. "This is their home. We are just visitors here." He told us that the activity is not malicious, but it is constant. It's as if the spirits are simply going about their eternal routines, forever replaying their lives and their deaths within the theater. He introduced us to the three most famous ghosts of the Pratt Opera House. The first is the man who started it all, John Pratt, the original owner, a man of wealth and vision. He loved this theater more than anything. Mr. Delgado believes his spirit remains to oversee his creation, a proud but protective energy. People have reported seeing the figure of a well-dressed man in the balcony, looking down upon the stage as if watching a performance that only he can see. They say you can sometimes smell the faint scent of his cigar smoke, a ghostly aroma that has no physical source. He is the patriarch of this haunted family. The second spirit is a much more tragic figure, John Pratt's nephew Henry. Henry was a stagehand, a young man who worked in the theater. His life ended in tragedy right here, in this building. The stories say he was found in the basement, a victim of a terrible accident. His spirit is said to be restless and sorrowful. Mr. Delgado told us that people often feel an overwhelming sense of sadness in certain areas, a cold chill that has no explanation. Henry is often blamed for moving objects and creating cold spots, his youthful energy now trapped in a loop of confusion and grief. He is the lost soul of the Opera House. The final and most mysterious ghost is known only as the Coal Dust Boy. Down in the dark, winding basement is an old coal tunnel. It was here that a young boy, his name lost to time, is said to have perished. Mr. Delgado explained that his apparition is the most startling. He is seen as a small, shadowy figure, covered in the dark dust of the coal he once shoveled. People hear a child's cough or a soft cry coming from the darkness of the tunnel. His energy is one of fear and loneliness. These three spirits, the owner, the nephew, and the boy, form the core of the haunting. They were the ones we had come to contact. With the stories of the spirits fresh in our minds, it was time to prepare for the night ahead. An investigation is nothing without the right equipment. We began unpacking our gear in the center of the main auditorium, turning the space into our base of operations. Each piece of equipment is designed to capture evidence that our own senses might miss. We laid out the tools of our trade: the EMF meters to detect fluctuations in electromagnetic fields, the digital voice recorders to capture electronic voice phenomena, EVPs, and the full-spectrum cameras that can see light beyond the human eye. This equipment would be our window into their world. Setting up is a meticulous process. It's not just about turning things on, it's about understanding the environment. I started by taking baseline readings of the entire building. I walked through the lobby, up to the balcony, and down to the basement, holding the EMF meter. I needed to know what the normal energy levels were, to identify any electrical wiring or power sources that could give us a false positive. In a building this old, you find spikes everywhere. But what we look for are the intelligent spikes, the ones that respond to our questions, the ones that have no logical source. The baseline readings are our map of the natural energy landscape. As my team set up static night vision cameras in key locations, one aimed at the stage, one in the balcony, and one pointed down the terrifying coal tunnel in the basement, I noticed something. The heavy velvet curtain on the side of the stage, which had been perfectly still, began to sway. It was a gentle movement back and forth as if someone had just walked past it. I immediately checked for any open doors or windows, any source of a draft. There was none. The air was dead still. I pulled out my digital thermometer and pointed it at the curtain. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in an instant, a cold spot. This is the stuff we live for. It was a clear physical event that had no immediate explanation. The building was already interacting with us even before the sun had fully set. The lights above us, which had been steady all afternoon, began to flicker. Mr. Delgado just nodded slowly. "They know you're here," he whispered. "They're curious." Every piece of equipment we set up felt like we were placing a listening device in another dimension. Our digital recorders were placed in empty rooms. Our cameras were watching the darkest corners. We were ready. The tools were in place. Now all we had to do was wait for the darkness. Before nightfall, Mr. Delgado gave us a final tour, a chance to experience the building and the fading light. This wasn't just about seeing the rooms, it was about feeling them. We started in the grand lobby, a space that should have felt welcoming. Instead, it felt heavy, charged with an expectant energy. As we stood beneath the high ceilings, I felt a sudden, intense chill run down my spine, so powerful it made me shiver. It was a personal experience, something the cameras can't capture, but it was just as real as any EMF spike. It was a feeling of being watched by many eyes, a silent audience waiting for the show to begin. We moved from the lobby to the second-floor balcony. The dust was thick on the rows of old wooden seats and the air was stale with the scent of time. This was John Pratt's domain. As I walked along the back row, I could almost picture him standing there, a proud silhouette against the faint light from the windows. The feeling here wasn't menacing, but it was powerful. It was a feeling of ownership, of pride. I ran my hand along the wooden railing and felt an icy cold spot, a stark contrast to the wood around it. It lingered for a moment and then was gone, a fleeting touch from the other side. The most profound feelings, however, were waiting for us on the other side of the balcony. We entered a series of small, forgotten rooms that were once used as dressing rooms. Here, the energy shifted dramatically. The pride of the balcony was replaced by a deep, overwhelming sadness. It was so strong it felt like a physical weight on my chest, making it hard to breathe. Mr. Delgado told us this is where the spirit of Henry, the young stagehand, is often felt. It's a place of sorrow and regret. I felt a genuine emotional response, a wave of grief that wasn't my own, washing over me. It was the psychic imprint of a life cut short. This daylight walkthrough is a crucial part of any investigation. It attunes you to the location's specific energies. It helps you distinguish between the different spirits and their unique emotional signatures. The pride of John Pratt, the sorrow of Henry, these were feelings we could now recognize. It confirmed that this wasn't just one ghost, but multiple energies coexisting in the same space. The building was a tapestry of emotions, woven together over decades. As we finished the tour and headed back downstairs, the last rays of sunlight disappeared from the windows. The building was changing, the daylight ghosts were retreating, and the spirits of the night were beginning to stir. The descent into the basement was like stepping into another world. The air grew cold and damp, and the smell of earth and decay filled our lungs. This was the underbelly of the Opera House, a maze of stone walls and dark corners. This was a place of work, of sweat, and of sorrow. It was here that we hoped to make contact with the most elusive of the spirits, the Coal Dust Boy. Mr. Delgado had warned us that the energy down here was different. It was heavier, more fearful. He was right. Every shadow seemed to writhe, and every sound from the floors above was muffled into a ghostly whisper. We made our way to the far end of the basement, to the entrance of the coal tunnel. It was little more than a black hole in the stone foundation, a gaping mouth leading to utter blackness. The feeling at the tunnel's entrance was oppressive. I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach, a primal fear of the dark. This was where the young boy was said to have died, a place of unimaginable terror for a child. We set up a single night vision camera facing the tunnel and placed a digital recorder on the ground just inside the opening. We also brought a simple toy ball, placing it a few feet from the entrance as a trigger object. With our gear in place, I decided to conduct a brief EVP session. I sat on the cold, damp floor, my back to the wall, facing the darkness of the tunnel. "Is there a little boy here with us?" I asked, my voice low and steady. "We aren't here to hurt you. We just want to talk." The silence that answered was profound. It felt different from the silence upstairs. It was a dead silence, empty and hollow. "Can you tell us your name? Can you make a noise for us? Can you push that ball?" I waited, every nerve on high alert, listening for the faintest response. Suddenly, the REM pod we had placed near the ball lit up and chirped wildly. Its antenna was detecting a static energy field that had just manifested out of nowhere. At the exact same moment, I heard it, a faint, dry cough coming from deep within the tunnel. It was unmistakable. It sounded like a child's cough, weak and strained. My blood ran cold. I looked at my team member, his eyes wide in the green glow of the camera's viewfinder. He had heard it too. We sat in stunned silence, a mixture of fear and excitement washing over us. The Coal Dust Boy had just acknowledged our presence. The night had not even officially begun. The heavy front door of the opera house shut with a deafening thud. A key turned in the lock, the sound echoing through the vast empty space. We were now locked inside the Pratt Opera House until sunrise. The departure of Mr. Delgado marked the true beginning of our investigation. The building felt different now, more isolated, more intimate. The thin veil of daylight comfort was gone, replaced by an all-encompassing darkness that our flashlights could only partially pierce. The air itself seemed to crackle with anticipation. We were alone with the spirits, and the night was theirs. Our first stop was the main floor. We decided to return to the auditorium, the site of the disembodied laugh from earlier. We spread out, finding spots to sit in the rows of empty theater seats, turning off our flashlights to let our eyes adjust to the darkness. The only light came from the faint green and red glows of our equipment. Sitting in the dark, you become hyper-aware of every sound, the hum of the cameras, the creak of your own chair, the beat of your own heart. It's a sensory deprivation that heightens everything else. The feeling of being watched intensified tenfold. We began our first formal EVP session of the night. "Is there anyone here with us?" I called out into the darkness, my voice sounding small in the huge room. "We heard you laugh earlier. Can you do it again for us?" We sat in patient silence, our digital recorders running, capturing any sound, audible or not. Minutes crawled by, filled with nothing but the building's natural groans. Then a clear, distinct sound came from the stage. A single loud footstep on the wooden floor. There was no one on the stage. We were all accounted for, sitting motionless in the seats. It was a direct, intelligent response. The energy in the room began to build. My K2 meter, which had been silent, suddenly flashed to red in my hand. "Did you just make that meter light up?" I asked. The lights flashed again as if in answer. "If you are John Pratt, can you make it flash to red again?" I challenged. The meter went wild, its lights dancing frantically. This was incredible. It was a clear attempt at communication. We weren't just experiencing random phenomena, we were having a conversation. The patriarch of the opera house was awake, and he was ready to interact with us. The lockdown had officially begun, and the spirits were putting on a show. For our final experiment, we moved on to the stage itself. This was the epicenter of the activity, the place where the laugh was heard, the place where the footsteps sounded. Standing in the center of the stage, in near-complete darkness, was unnerving. You feel exposed, vulnerable, as if 1,000 unseen eyes in the auditorium are watching your every move. We set up our spirit box, a device that scans through radio frequencies at a rapid pace, which spirits can theoretically use to form words. It creates a wash of white noise, a chaotic sound that we hoped a spirit could manipulate into a voice. I held the device and turned it on. The static filled the air. "We are on your stage now," I announced. "We come with respect. Who is here with us?" The static hissed and popped, and then a clear voice broke through. "Pratt," it said, a single word spoken in a low, raspy tone. We all froze, looking at each other in disbelief. It was a direct answer to my question. "Are you John Pratt?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. The box was silent for a moment, and then another voice, higher and weaker, came through. "Cold," it whispered. Was this Henry, or the coal dust boy? We continued the session, asking simple questions. "Why are you here?" I asked. Through the static, a series of words came through, fragmented but chilling. "My home," followed by "help me." The contrast was jarring. One voice, strong and possessive, the other weak and pleading. It was as if both John Pratt and another, more tragic spirit were trying to speak at the same time, their energies battling for control of the device. The temperature on stage dropped noticeably, and we could see our own breath in the air. The spirits were using the energy in the room to communicate. As the first hints of dawn approached, the activity began to fade. The spirit box fell silent, the EMF meters settled down, and the heavy feeling in the air began to lift. Our night at the Pratt Opera House was over. We didn't solve the mystery of the haunting, but we did achieve our goal. We made contact. We heard their voices and felt their presence. The laughter, the footsteps, the voices from the static, they were all pieces of a larger puzzle. The Pratt Opera House is not just an empty theater. It is a stage for a performance that never ends. The spirits of John Pratt, his nephew Henry, and the lonely coal dust boy remain, their stories echoing in the silence, waiting for the next visitor to sit in the dark and listen. The air inside the Pratt Opera House was thick, heavy. It was so cold you could see your breath, even though it was mild outside. We stepped through the grand entrance, leaving the world of the living behind us. Darkness swallowed the light from our headlamps, revealing only small circles of dust-covered velvet and decaying wood. This wasn't just an old building, it was a place where history was trapped, a place where lingering energies were waiting for us. We came here seeking answers. We wanted to connect with the spirits said to haunt these hallowed halls, to understand their stories, and why they remain tethered to this location. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a gunshot in the oppressive silence. Aaron was already on edge, his eyes darting into every shadow. Billy and Jay started setting up the static night vision cameras, their movements slow and deliberate. You could feel the history seeping from the walls. Decades of laughter, applause, tears, and tragedy were imprinted here. We were told stories of a spirit named C.B. Pratt, the theater's founder, who still watches over his creation. There were also whispers of a tragic actress who took her own life backstage. These were the souls we had come to find. The weight of their presence was undeniable from the moment we entered. Our goal is never to provoke. Our goal is to understand. We use technology as a bridge between our world and the next. Our digital recorders, SLS cameras, and spirit boxes are our tools to peel back the veil. We started our lockdown in the main auditorium. The rows of empty seats stretched out before us like a silent, ghostly audience. We sat in the center, a small island of light in an ocean of blackness. The silence was deafening, a palpable force that pressed in on us from all sides. We announced our presence, respectfully asking any spirits to communicate with us. The wait began. The initial moments of any investigation are a battle of nerves. Your senses are on high alert. Every sound, every flicker of movement, every sudden temperature drop is scrutinized. Is it just the building settling, or is it something more? Is it a spirit making its presence known? This is the raw feeling we chase. This is the moment where belief and skepticism collide head-on. In the darkness of the Pratt Opera House, we didn't have to wait long for that collision. The building was alive with an energy that was both sad and unsettling. We knew this lockdown would be different. We were not alone. Perfect. We moved our investigation to the upper balcony. The air up there felt even colder, a pocket of icy dread that clung to the decaying velvet seats. I pulled out the spirit box, a device that scans radio frequencies at high speed, creating white noise that spirits can manipulate to form words. I held it up, the static hissing into the silence. "Is there anyone here with us?" I asked. "Can you tell us your name?" The static crackled and popped, a chaotic symphony of noise.
"Eerie, ghostly, get out!"
Then, through the noise, a voice. It was faint, a whisper carried on the electronic wind. "Get out!" The words were clear, chilling. It was a direct response. Aaron, who was standing near the edge of the balcony, suddenly froze. "Dude, did you hear that?" he whispered, his voice tight with fear. Before I could answer, a woman's soft, mournful sigh echoed from the far corner of the balcony, clear as day, with no electronic device needed. It was an EVP, an electronic voice phenomenon captured by our audio recorders, but we heard it with our own ears. We call this a Class A EVP. It was undeniable. The sound was filled with such sorrow it sent a shiver down my spine. We were communicating with something that was intelligent and aware of our presence. The temperature plummeted. Our thermal imaging camera showed a human-shaped cold spot materializing near the seat where the sigh had come from. It was a dark blue mass against the warmer orange of the background, a perfect silhouette of a person sitting and watching us. This was incredible. We were witnessing a full-bodied apparition manifest as a cold mass right before our eyes. I asked another question, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "Are you the actress who died here? Are you sad?" The spirit box crackled again, and this time the voice was stronger, a woman's voice. "Help me!" The plea for help hung in the air, a heavy, emotional weight. This wasn't a malicious entity. This was a lost soul, trapped in a loop of its own tragedy. We tried to offer words of comfort, to tell her she didn't have to stay here, but the energy seemed to dissipate as quickly as it had arrived. The cold spot vanished, and the spirit box fell silent, returning to its meaningless static. The encounter left us shaken. We had made contact. We had heard her pain. This was why we do what we do. We give a voice to the voiceless, even those who have long since passed from this world. Drawn by the intense energy, we descended from the balcony and made our way to the main stage. This was the heart of the theater, the place where countless performers had poured out their souls. It was also rumored to be the most active area for the spirit of C.B. Pratt himself. The heavy stage curtain, thick with the dust of ages, swayed gently, though there was no draft. Billy set up the SLS camera, which uses infrared light to map skeletal figures in real time. We hoped to capture a visual representation of the spirits we were feeling all around us. I stood center stage, the beam of my flashlight cutting through the gloom. "C.B. Pratt," I called out into the vast, empty auditorium. "We have come to your theater with respect. We want to hear your story. Are you still here watching over this beautiful place?" For a moment there was nothing. Only the creaks and groans of the old building. Then from the darkness of the wings came a loud bang. It sounded like a heavy piece of stage equipment had been thrown to the ground. Aaron and I spun around, our lights scanning the area, but there was nothing there. Everything was exactly as we had left it. Then it happened. Billy yelled from behind the camera, "Zach, look at the monitor, I've got something!" We rushed over to him, our eyes glued to the small screen. The SLS camera was mapping a stick figure. It was standing right next to me on the stage where there was nothing but empty space. The figure was tall, well-defined, and it moved. It raised its arm and seemed to point out towards the empty audience seats as if gesturing to a full house. This was mind-blowing evidence. We were capturing a full-bodied, intelligent apparition on our most advanced piece of equipment. The figure remained for almost a full minute, turning its mapped head to look directly at me. I felt a surge of static electricity in the air and the hairs on my arms stood on end. I spoke to it directly. "Is that you, Mr. Pratt? Are you showing us what it was like on opening night?" The stick figure on the screen lifted both of its arms as if taking a bow. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished. The monitor showed only the empty stage once again. The air grew still. The energy had peaked, leaving us with a profound sense of awe and a piece of evidence that was impossible to debunk. The rest of the night was filled with activity, but nothing could top what we captured on that stage. As we packed up our gear, with the first rays of dawn beginning to pierce the dusty windows, the weight of the night's events really began to sink in. We had come seeking proof, and honestly, the Pratt Opera House had delivered beyond our wildest expectations. Back at our home base, the evidence review process began. This is where we meticulously analyze every second of audio and video, separating the explainable from the truly paranormal. It's a process of elimination, of debunking every possibility until all that remains is the unexplainable. The disembodied woman's sigh from the balcony was even clearer on the digital recorder. When analyzed on the computer, the audio waveform showed no signs of tampering or background noise interference. It was a pure, isolated human sound in a room that was supposed to be empty, except for us. The spirit box voices, "Get out and help me," were just as compelling. They were direct, intelligent responses to my questions, captured on multiple devices. We cross-referenced our own audio to make sure no one in the crew had spoken or even whispered at those exact moments. The results were conclusive. These were paranormal voices. The thermal footage of the cold mass was jaw-dropping. We could actually track its formation, its stable human shape, and its dissipation. The temperature in that specific spot dropped over 20 degrees in a matter of seconds, a phenomenon for which there is just no logical scientific explanation. But the crown jewel of our investigation was the SLS footage, a fully formed, moving, and interactive stick figure mapped in a space where no human was standing. It responded to my questions. It gestured. It took a bow. Honestly, it was one of the single most incredible pieces of evidence we have ever captured. This collection of evidence, when viewed together, paints a powerful picture. It tells a story of intelligent, conscious energy that continues to exist within the walls of the Pratt Opera House. It's not just random noises or feelings, it's communication, it's interaction. We captured a desperate plea for help from a sorrowful spirit and witnessed what we believe was the proud founder of the theater, still commanding his stage. This evidence challenges our understanding of life and death. It forces us to confront the possibility that the end of our physical lives is not the end of our consciousness. Leaving the Pratt Opera House as the sun rose felt like stepping out of another dimension. The silence of the building was replaced by the sounds of the waking town, but the silence we left behind felt different. It was no longer empty. It was filled with the echoes of our encounters, the whispers of the souls we had connected with. This investigation was more than just a hunt for ghosts. It was a profound human experience that blurred the lines between the past and the present, the living and the dead. We went in as investigators and we left as witnesses to something truly extraordinary. What are these energies we encounter? Are they imprints of past events? like a video recording playing on a loop? Or are they the conscious spirits of people who once lived, trapped between worlds? The intelligent responses, the emotional pleas, and the interactive gestures we captured at the Pratt suggest something more than just residual energy. They suggest awareness, consciousness, a personality that survives physical death. The sad actress in the balcony and the proud showman on the stage were not just echoes, they were entities, present and accounted for. This is the haunting truth we seek. The world is not as simple as we perceive it to be. There are layers to our reality, dimensions that exist just beyond our senses. With every investigation, with every piece of evidence, we pull back that curtain just a little bit more. The Pratt Opera House is a special place, a location where the veil between worlds is incredibly thin. The spirits there have a story to tell, and we were privileged to be there to listen, to record, and to bear witness to their continued existence. The experience stays with you forever. Now, we present our findings to you. We've laid out the evidence we captured, from the chilling EVPs to the unbelievable SLS footage. We want you to be the judge. Watch our full episode on the Pratt Opera House. Analyze the evidence for yourself. What do you hear in the whispers? What do you see in the shadows? Are you a believer or are you a skeptic? Share your thoughts with us online. The search for answers is a journey we are all on together. Join the adventure. The truth is out there, waiting in the darkness. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, don't forget to subscribe to Opera Brownn for more investigations, stories, and haunting truths. Your support helps us keep searching for answers, together.